Hey everyone, how's it going? And welcome back to another Demystifying Post-Production Motion Monday. My name's Ellie and I'm joined by Lionel, Chad, and we've also got Darren in the background. How's it going, guys?
Good, how you doing, Ellie?
I'm good. It's good to see you guys again. Back on a Monday, ready for another hour of good fun, I'm sure. I'm excited. But before we get into it, let's just quickly have a look at the stuff that's going on over the next couple of weeks as a Maxon training team or as a whole kind of collective. So if you guys don't know already, all you have to do is head over to the maxon.net events page and you can see all the great stuff that we have coming up and all the great events that we have. So if we scroll down here, you can see at the moment we're currently running our Demystifying post-production where it's voyages across applications. So it's so week 2, so we're already on part 2, which is good fun. And then on Thursday, we have an Ask the Trainer with a field special. So you're probably thinking, on Wednesday, do we not normally have a intro to rigging workshop? We do, but we're actually missing this week out. So part 6, the final part, is actually happening next Wednesday. So don't worry, that's not a mistake. And then on Fridays, we have our VFX and chill with Seth and Hashi. And there's something else happening next week that I just wanted to kind of be like, hey, do we know, have we seen this? If you haven't got it in your calendars already, our spring launch event is happening next Wednesday, April 20th. So that is 8 AM PDT. So yeah, you can join us and we'll be looking at some exciting updates on all of our Maxon products. So the whole kind of like Maxon One range. So yeah, if it's not in your calendar, what are you doing? Put it in your calendar. We'll all be there, we'll be hanging out, excited to see what is coming up. And also, if you guys ever miss any of our shows or any of our sessions, then pretty much most of them get recorded and we upload them onto our Maxon Training Team YouTube channel. So all you have to do, search Maxon Training Team and you'll come up to this lovely channel here. And then we like to keep our upcoming live streams. So you can see we have our Ask the Trainer. We also have like Maxon Color live streams on YouTube as well. And then we just like to drop everything into useful playlists for you guys. So we have our Demystifying post-production, we have our Ask the Trainer, and we have like hands-on with Maxon. And everything's timestamped, so you can go through, browse, find some top tips for your work, and yeah, just check out some of the stuff that the guys have been doing.
Thanks, Dr. Sassy.
Yes, always have to shout out Dr. Sassy. He's the one that goes through and timestamps all of them. So if any of you take advantage of the timestamps, then yeah, be sure to give him a thank you because he does it for all of us and we do really appreciate it. So all of these links, including a link to get yourselves like a Maxon t-shirt if it's something you're interested in, can be found in the handout section of GoToWebinar. If you can't see that, let us know and we can link you to that. So yeah, we have like a super secret link for the merch store. It takes you to this page here. All you have to do, type in that password, Creative Voyages, and it will get you in there. And one shirt, all you got to do is pay for shipping, and yeah, then you can kind of like represent along with us. Like we love to be wearing these shirts, don't we, guys?
Mm-hmm.
So guys, what are we going to be doing today? Lionel, I believe that I'm going to be handing it over to you. Is that right?
Yes.
Cool. Let me hand it over. Cool, yeah. So, Lionel, what are we going to be diving into today?
So we're going today to see how to work with light groups inside Cinema 4D in After Effects. So we can have several render with just one render. So in After Effects, we have here our bedroom at night. We have the same one at sunset and the same one during the day. And actually they all come from one single render, which is this one, which looks very super weird if you take a look just at the main render. So it's everything at once, but once you know how to split it up, you get this interesting result. And what's really cool with that, if I take this other one here, is that you can create a lot of render with just one. So for example, here, I don't want anymore to hide my lighting here. So I can turn on this one. I can just turn off this one or just turn it down. It's that easy. And you can also, this is without a fill light on top, and you could very well just increase. So it's like we're rendering, but we're not, because everything is done post-prod. I can turn on the ceiling. I can change the color of the ceiling. I can add some optical glow. There is so much to be done with that. It's so easy. So you can turn it down, of course, but you can also turn it up. You can see it's going to react accordingly. As you can see, there is the reflection here in the chrome ball. It's increasing because it's, well, it works, it just works. So it's very interesting to try. And this is the same render. I can just add my, my sunset and so on. So the idea is you render once, and then you can do all sort of crazy stuff inside After Effects. The idea is to create multiple looks with just one render. There is some caveats you will see, but overall it's very interesting for architecture, I think, or for packshot, obviously. Might be useful also for motion graphics and so on. And this is all with basic After Effects. I mean, you don't need any add-on plugin or whatever, just what's come inside After Effects and Cinema 4D, and with just Redshift. So shall we start? I'm going
Yes,
to...
also, I feel bad. I didn't do my normal shout outs for everyone in the questions area. I didn't have it open. So really quickly, I just want to say hey to the guys that have said hey in the chat. So Bernd, Hannah, Charles, Jay, Kent, Drake, Brian, Sharon, Glenn, and Anders. It's lovely to see you guys. So yeah, don't forget, any questions you have for us or for Lionel, just drop them in there, and then we'll be sure to, ask them live or answer them in the background for you.
Yeah, don't hesitate, because this one I think should fit in 1 hour for once. So that's time.
No, Lionel, we have to overrun. That's the rules.
That would be better if we don't overrun. Okay, so I'm going to turn off my cam and let's go inside Cinema 4D. So we can see, take a look at our scene. So this scene is taken from the Asset Brother. I'm sure you know about it. Well, it's inside the Asset Brother. That's why I'll be able to give it to you. I have simplified it for the texture and so on, just so we can concentrate on the lighting and also to have faster render. Okay, so we just have our scene, which is an XREF, because I don't want to waste space disk. And a few other stuff I added. This sphere is just to see reflection, to really see it's working on the whole of the scene. And a few other light fixture I just added. Okay, so, and right now I do have some lighting. And we can see I have a Redshift Sun, Dome Light. So actually I'm going to turn off those, because those are the light from the ceiling, this one and this one. So now we only have a Redshift Sun and Dome Light, and we can just take a look at the render. So let's go to render view. Let's take a look. And this is it. And I need to do one more step. I forgot here in globals, we're working in ACCG, so I need to turn on the SDR. This is the default settings, okay? That's just something I forgot to do. So we do have this scene. As you can see, it's daylight. There is nothing to see outside. We'll see about that, because you can change the background picture and so on. The light you can see here comes from the Redshift Sun, and we have a dome light just to add more indirect light. So if I just turn on the dome light, for example, we can see it's much darker. And if I turn on the sun, well, it's too blend. There is no direct sunlight entering. It's not that interesting. And the idea now is to add more light and to have the rendering all at once and to separate those lights inside After Effects. Okay, so for that, we're going to use light groups. So light groups have been inside Redshift forever. I mean, at least 4 or 5 years. And surprisingly, sorry, not many people know about them or even use them. And they're very easy to use them. So you have the light group in the details of every light right here, light group, and it works with AOV. So actually what we're going to do is to use what's called light mixer in other software. For example, Corner Render and V-Ray Render use this term, light mixer. This is actually using AOV and light group to mix light during post-production. Okay, so after rendering, light mix and light group are almost the same, not exactly, but it's the same idea. Okay, so to use your light group, you need to assign light to it. Okay, so every Redshift light are compatible with a light group. But the only one which is not, because it's not a light, it makes sense, is the Redshift Sky. Okay, so that's something you need to be aware. If you use here the Redshift Sun and Sky rig, you will get the Redshift Sun, which is compatible, it works, but it won't work with the Redshift Sky. That's why I'm using here a dome light. Just know that the Redshift Sky is used to work alongside the Redshift Sun, is going to create for you a gradient based on the position of the sun. So if you're using a dome light, you can very well emulate that with HDRI or just tinting your dome light. Okay. Every other light, so all those here, render in lights, are compatible with our light groups. So to create light groups, you're just going here to the details and you're going to assign there. Okay, so don't be fooled with that AOV light group. You just need there, add a new light group. So I'm going to create the first one for the day, for the daylight. So I'm going to create one, which will be daylight. Okay, and the sun is going to use the same daylight, this one, okay? Once we have done that, we have created a light group, okay? And your light group, there can be as many light groups as you want. So here we have the daylight. I'm going now to create some other for our night. I'm going to create a very simple one for now. So let's go and I'm going to deactivate those two. So I turn out the render, it will be faster. I'm going to add this field light. So the field light inside this scene is just an array light, which is here on top. Okay, we can see it here. This is this big one. Okay, and I'm going to turn it on. That's why we can see it. Okay, so here it is. I'm going to turn on the bed lamp. So the bed lamp is this one. So let's go here to see it. All right, here it is. So it's just an array light, which is inside our lamp. And let's activate also the one which is on the ceiling. So this is the one, I'm not going to show all of them. So on the ceiling, and this one, which is the floor lamp, which is this one, okay? And for those, I'm going to create another light group. So let's go to the details, AOV light group, and let's add a new light group. And let's call it night for now. Okay, so I'm going to create one for this one. And then for this one, I'm going to assign the night I have created. Same goes for this one, and same go for this one. So you can have as many lights as you want in a light group. Okay, so we have 2 light group now, and everything is turned on. Now, how to see those light group? You need to go to the Redshift AOV, so AOV Manager, and they're going to appear for each one of your AOV as you add them. So we're going to use a diffuse lighting. Diffuse lighting is, well, the diffuse lighting, meaning the direct light hitting the object, okay? We're going to use the global illumination, which is the indirect lighting. So the light that has bounced at least once or twice or 3 times and so on. It depends, of course, on the number of bounce. Depends here on your global illumination with the trace depth. That should be called secondary bounce or number of bounces. Okay, so the GI, and we're going to add our reflection. Reflection are the reflection from the object. Okay, so the object reflecting other object. The specular lighting is going to be the reflection of the light into the object. And that will be all for now. We don't have any refraction. I'm not going to use the reflection in this scene. And also, we don't have, this is a very simple scene, okay? And now for each one of these AOV, you will select if you're going to use the light group or not, okay? So for each one, we have here light groups and all light groups. So if I'm going to click here, it means that it's going to output a separate light group for the diffuse lighting for those 2. Okay, if I just want to have one of them, I'm going to click this one. By clicking all, it's going to give me all of them. So let's do it for all of them for now. Okay, now if I fire up the render view, we're going to have our main render with everything. Okay, so everything, yeah, except the redshift sun and dome light. So it gives us a good idea of what the scene, the night scene looks, okay, with all the light. And if I activate now the redshift sun and dome light, we have now both the lighting from the day and the lighting from the night. So it gives us this overblown result. Well, it makes sense still because you can have light turn on during the day and everything is there. And now what's interesting is here, if you go to your AOV, so I'm going to make it a bit bigger, it'll be easier to see. If we go here, we can see the diffuse lighting of everything. And here is the diffuse lighting of only the daylight. Okay, and now the diffuse lighting of only the night. And now we're going to see the GI of everything and the GI of the daylight and the GI of the night and so on. So everything is separated, meaning that we have control. We have the reflection of the daylight, as you can see, and we have the reflection of the night. And so on, so on. So specular lighting of daylight, specular lighting of the night. So it's that simple. As you can see, it's very simple. You need to be aware of a few things. One very important thing is here in your GI, and this is a big caveat. This is something I hope that will be added sometimes later. I'm not sure it's technically possible, but I think it is. In global illumination, only brute force is going to work. Okay, and that's bad news because brute force and brute force for the primary and secondary GI engine is going to be pretty slow. Okay, usually for interior like this, you're going to use brute force and irradiance point cloud, which is the default settings. It's not going to work. Okay, the irradiance point cloud and the irradiance cache are not going to work with light groups. Okay, only brute force. That's very important to know, because if you use one of them, it's not going to tell you that it's not going to work, but there will be some light missing. You won't know why, just because you need to be on brute force. And so it's going to be a slow render, but the idea is to skip several render or to have several render into one. So it makes sense that it takes time. Okay, now we have done that. It's already ready to render. We just need here in the sampling to take care of the threshold and so on. So we have something that's not too slow. And I'm not going to fire the render because even here on my computer, which is pretty fast, this shot with two light groups, it's okay. I mean, it would take, I suppose, between 5 and 10 minutes. And this is our output. So this is not a very big picture, but 10 minutes for this, it's a bit slow. It's a bit slow, but those working in architectural rendering are not going to be shocked, because those are the slowest render. Interior render are always slow. If you add many light groups, your render time can go up very quickly. Okay, so with this same here settings, the same width and height, with for the final image, I had like 30 minutes of render. That's pretty long. To my opinion, it's pretty long. But again, this is like we're going to do several render at the same time. If you need to save this, you're going to go to the save, of course, and use the multipass image, because by definition, we need all the AOV to render everything. To have everything, you need to have multipass image enabled here. You don't need actually the regular image, because we're going to build everything back inside After Effects. And you need to use OpenEXR and 32 bits per channel. This is mandatory. You won't work otherwise. Okay, so OpenEXR, 32 bits per channel, multi-layer file, and so on. Okay, and last but not least, because we're going to do compositing inside After Effects, and we're using here our AC's CG default. When you render in OpenEXR to do compositing, that's something we have seen in previous webinar. So I won't explain in depth, just tell you that you need to do that. You need to change your view from AC's HDRI video to RAW. This is very important again. And you need to untick compensate for view transform. Okay, and this is going to be scary, because if you put it in RAW view, it's going to look very ugly. This is normal. This is expected, and you need to do that if you want to do compositing inside After Effects. Again, this is very important. Okay, once you have done all that, you're ready to render. So I won't do it as I told you, because it takes a long time to render, but you need to have those settings set this way. Just to tell you very quickly, it does work with the all linear workflow. And the all linear workflow, you would just change your working space here to scene linear rec 709 sRGB, and you would change this one to untoned map. Okay, this would be the old workflow, but really the AC CG is so much better. You really need to use it. Okay, so this is a simple setup that I show you with just two light groups. but in After Effects, I'm not going to show you only 2 light groups because it's not that interesting. So if you want to have more depth into your lighting, if you want to have several more settings, more interesting stuff to do, you're going to create more light groups. Okay, so it's very easy. Again, if you want to separate, you can create as many as 1 light group for every light. It's possible. Of course, here it doesn't make sense. Those 2 really are the daylight group. So they're going to keep here in the daylight. But here, this is the field light for the night. I could very well change this one to a new light group. So I'm going to do it. Let's call it field night. That makes a bad pun about the founder of Nike, Phil Knight. Oh, sorry. Okay, so the bed lamp. This is the night one actually. Here we have this is the ceiling. So I'm going to create a night group for the ceiling. And we have one for the floor lamp. Add a new group for floor. Okay, doing that, you don't need to do anything else in the AOV Manager because we already have here the all light group settings turned on, meaning that it's going to create as many AOV as needed, depending on the number of light groups you have created. So we can just take a quick look here if I fire up the render again. So it's rendering everything at once. But if I go here to the diffuse lighting of the ceiling, we only have the ceiling. We only have the daylight, which is made of 2 lights, the dome light and the sun light. The field light, which is the light from the ceiling, the upper ceiling, and so on. So you see, it's again very easy to compartmentate, to separate everything, so you can do whatever you want with this. And of course, we have all the according AOV for all the others. So let's go back to the beauty. I'm going to turn on, turn off. The last thing I created before going to After Effects for my final rendering, I wanted to have some volume light, especially for this one here, for our lamp, our bed lamp. So I added here an object, which is the Redshift environment. And I just took care of all the light. So the only light that I want to have some volume light is this one, the bed lamp. So in the details here, I put a very, very, very low here amount. So 0.01. That's more than enough most of the time with environment light. And all the other are set to 0. So you have to be careful with that because by default, all the light have 1, okay? And as you can see, the only one that has something is the bed lamp. Okay, so doing that, I need to go to the asset AOV Manager and add now our volume lighting. And here we can do something else. I'm not going to use the all light groups. I only want the light groups of the my night, which is my bed lamp here. You have to be careful with that. Always only compute the AOV you need. I mean, that would be a very bad idea to add everything there to the right, because it's going to add some render time a lot, okay? And volume light especially can be time consuming. So there is no need to create AOV for light that don't have any contribution to the volume lighting. Okay, and that's why you can choose just one of the your light to render. Okay, once I have done that, I'm ready actually to go to After Effects, where we have a lot of work to do, obviously, to render everything. So again, the render time is pretty long. I mean, with just to give you an idea, if you use here on the global illumination, you use the secondary engine, the irradiance point cloud. This scene was like less than 5 minutes to render. Okay, with everything on, like I showed you, it's more like 30 minutes. Okay, so it's 10 times longer. That's a lot. So you need to think, do I need that? I would say yes, because we will be able to create 5, 6, 7 different images from the same one. But if it's only 2, maybe it's not that interesting, because I repeat, it's 10 times as long. Okay, so it's important to take that into consideration. Also, one last thing to say maybe is to point out that our final render, which is here, is pretty huge. Of course, you can see here, this is 200 megabytes for a light, for a picture which is pretty small. Okay, so this is our format. It's roughly 1 million pixel, and we have a light, we have a file which is 200 megabytes. Okay, that's a lot. Okay, maybe do we have a question before going to After Effects? I guess maybe it'll come later. I don't know.
Yeah, we've got a couple in actually. So also really quickly, because I think I may have missed this, Bern was wondering, are you using a HDRI on your dome light?
Well, I didn't do everything here because I didn't. Let me show you my final. Yeah, that's very important because I forgot to tell you about this one. So this is my final render. And here for this one, for our dome light, this is the daylight. I didn't use any because this is pure white daylight. Okay, it's not. It's really bland, so you don't need to use any HDRI for that, because when you do use HDRI, the computation of the lighting is going to be a bit longer, not a lot, but a bit longer. So for this one, I didn't use anything. But for our second setup, which is here a Redshift Sun, so this is to create a sunset, for which I created the according AOV, which is sunset here. For this one, for the dome light, I did use HDRI, which is very nice. So let me show you. Maybe I'm going to unplug, turn off all the light, and just keep the sunset one. Oh yes, it was in bucket mode, so it's going to render again. Here it is. Okay, so all the nice color we have here is thanks to our dome light, which is using Skies on Fire, which is a very nice HDRI. I'm going to use anyway in After Effects, so you will see how it looks.
Yeah, that looks really nice. Sharon was wondering, what are your color settings as well on your HDRI whilst we're talking about it?
Yeah, it's the same. I just increase the exposure because again, it's an interior scene. So I cranked up a bit the exposure, especially for this one, because this one is very tame. It's not a HDRI, which is very strong. And also, that's an interesting trick, actually. In the details, you can see you can increase this value further than 1. I mean, this one just blew my mind, because I found out about that only 1 or 2 years ago, that you could go further than 1. Okay, it doesn't tell you, because here it's capped at 1. You think it's capped, but it's not. So if you want to have more global illumination, for this particular light, you can do it. I could even put here 10, so you don't need to increase that the exposure value not a lot. You can just compensate with this one. It's going to be the only risk here, it's going to be grainier. Okay, so because it's going to be grainier, it's going to take more time to clean up during the final rendering. But a very interesting trick which works for every light actually, on not only the dome light, of course. You can use it for every other one. For example, our Redshift Sun here, I could very well increase the global illumination to 2 or 3 or whatever.
Cool. Yeah, I was thinking, have you ever thought, have you ever used the portal light before? Because I've used that in this kind of situation to increase. I put it like next to a window, and it works as like an extra GI bounce. And so I just thought I'd say that in case people want to use a portal light as well.
Yeah, the portal light, yes. That's something I could have used, but I didn't here. Yeah, but yeah, it's a very good idea to use.
No, it's cool to see different options. One quick one before I let you carry on. Sharon was wondering, do you have denoising on at all on any of your AOVs?
No, not for this one, but it works very well with denoising. I mean, you can use it because yes, the render time again is going to be very long, so it would be a good idea to use a denoiser. It's going to work with the light groups. It doesn't matter. I mean, with or without, same result.
Cool. Cheers. I'll let you carry on.
Okay, so in After Effects, because we have a lot of work to do in After Effects. So let's go back here, and I'm going to start from scratch using my last render. So let's go to new project. So I won't explain everything about the ACCG settings because those are a bit complicated. And they have been explained in another webinar. You will have the link. You need to follow this step. And again, this is so much better using ACCG. Okay, so in After Effects, you need to set your project to 32 bits per channel. Working space, we're going to use the sRGB. And then here we're going to use the linearized working space. So those first steps are very important because if you don't do that, it's not going to work. Okay, so took care of everything here. So it's done. I'm going to click on OK. Let's import now our AOV. And this is this EXR. The very last I rendered. You can see 540. That was 20 minutes ago before the start of it. Actually, it wasn't the it was the last one, but it was just slightly better one with less grain for the webinar. So here I'm going to take my EXR, and very important here again, you're going to use to tick here the create composition tick box. Okay, when I'm going to import, it's going to give me this option, default option. I'm going to say yes to everything. So it's going to take a while because there is a lot of AOV inside that file. Here it is. And now we have all nicely comped, as you can see, for all our AOVs. And you can see there is a lot of them. And this is the original file. And yes, the original looks, I mean, it looks better. Okay, so don't worry when you see that inside Redshift, inside Cinema 4D, that's totally normal. Okay, that's not something you could show to a client, obviously. Okay, so we have our assemble. And the assemble here is going to be the assembling of all the source comps we have here. So let's activate it. And as you can see, this is with everything on. Okay, and we have all of our AOV, and we need to take care of that. So don't worry, it's pretty easy actually. You just need to, I'm going to do it both ways. I'm going to use a simple way first. I'm going to recreate my light groups, and then we will see how we can go a bit further. Okay, so the RGBA is the original image, the final composite. I'm not going to use it, so I'm going to untick. And now I'm going to take some time to assemble, to comp all the light by their AOV. Okay, so we have our volume lighting. I'm going to untick those and I'm going to use them later because with the volume lighting, I only used the one from the bed lamp. Here we have our specular lighting. So sunset, and now I'm going to look for sunset everywhere. And because we have here this field search, I'm going to use it. And it should, what's going on, sunset. Okay, I don't know what happened. So those are our 4 AOVs with sunset. So you just need to take all of them and comb them together. So let's go to composition, layer, I think, yeah, pre-compose. So Control-Shift-C. That's what I'm doing all the time. I just wanted to show you here on the layer menu. So Control-Shift-C, and this one is going to be the sunset. Okay. This is the sunset composition. I'm going inside and let's just keep here our diffuse lighting at the bottom and those 3 here. So the order is of no importance. Those 3 are going to be on add mode. Okay, and we can see we do have something that looks like our sunset, but actually it's not because we haven't done the ACCG color transform yet. Okay, so this is the drill. Once I have done one of them like that, the other are on the same principle. So here, now, if I'm going to use the stand for the standing lamp, and I don't know why I have to, that's weird. I don't know why it happened like that. It should, yeah. Okay, so we have our stand and those 3. So I'm going to here take a shortcut. Let's take those 3 on add. I'm going to take those 2, Control-Shift-C, and this one is going to be the standing light. Okay. Now we're going to work at the night fill. So the night fill is the filling light added on top of everything. And I'm trying to go a bit faster. Okay, so this is the night fill. So it does take a bit of time to do everything. Let's do on the night. Okay, so the night, which is this one, those 3 will be on add. This one like that, Control-Shift-C, night. So this is the bed lamp. I could even call it bed lamp. Okay. And what do we have? We have the ceiling now. Ceiling. Again, let's put it to add. Let's take everything, ceiling. Okay. And I think we are done, are we? I did the daylight. No, I didn't do the daylight. So the daylight here, now it's pretty easy to take all those together. Okay, so Control-Shift-C, daylight. Inside the daylight, I'm going to put all of them on add. And every time you can see we get our corresponding light. Okay, so now we have all that. I'm going to take, so those are the overall reflection, overall GI and so on. I don't need those. I'm just going to, well, let's delete them. I don't need this one either. And those two, actually, I will need only the one for the night. Okay, and the RGBA, well, I don't need it, but still I want to keep it. So now let's take a look at the daylight. As you can see, it looks okay, but there is something wrong. It's much too bright and overblown. That's because we haven't taken care of the AC's CG transform. Okay, what we've done here is not enough. This is just one part of the solution. So you need to add an adjustment layer. I'm going to call it OCIO. Okay, we're going to use the Open Color IO. So yeah, I made a mistake. Actually, the Open Color IO is an add-on plugin. It's free. It's free to download, free to install, and so on. But you need to download it. We will show you the link after the webinar. So this plugin is mandatory to work with ACCG. Okay, so we're going to put it there. And the configuration, I'm going to load and my custom. Let's go to here, program data. So yeah, it's something else you have to remember. We're going to load an OCIO config file. We have one shipped with Redshift, so you need to find it here. Let's go to data. Let's go to OCIO, and this is this one. Okay, we need to put it on display. Input space is going to be AC's CG, and the view AC's SDR video. Okay, so it looks already better, but we're not done yet. We have one last step to do, is to use the color converter. So let's type converter, it'll be easier. So color profile converter, I'm going to put here. And the only thing you need to do here is in the input profile, set it to sRGB. And this is it. This is our right color. Okay, so this is our daylight scene. We're back on track. And this layer is going to take care of all the OCIO color transform. Okay, so we have our daylight, and now I can see that we have our ceiling, we have our bed lamp, we have our night fill, we have our standing light, and we have our all setup for the sunset. And we have on separate layer the volume lighting. Okay, now to add those together, it's as easy as take, for example, let's do with the ceiling, and I want to add now the night fill. So I'm going to add it, and now you need to change your blending mode to add, and that's it. And the same for the other. So this one, this is the bed lamp, will be on add. Let's turn it on also. Okay, and our standing light, which is this one, I'm going to add, and of course turn it on, and that's it. And you can see it's going to light really everything. And because we're in 32 bits, because we're using OCIO, we can now have more control for that. For example, now I want to turn on to increase the lighting from this lamp. Let's just use exposure. So the exposure I'm going to add on the standing light. And if I increase it, it's going to increase everything accordingly. As you can see here, this is the reflection of our standing light. So this one. And it's going to increase as well here. You can see also the lighting on the floor is going to work as expected. Here on top, on the GI, and so on. So that's really great because you don't need to re-render. We did have a long render, but the key is to have here anything we want to do to our light. We can of course tint it. So I'm going to use a tint and I can just change the tint, for example, to something bluer, and you can see it works. If I want to go a bit crazy, it's going to work also. So of course, you won't be able to change. Something too drastic is going to show at some point, I guess. Well, it's pretty robust, as you can see. It works pretty well. That's thanks to the OCIO. But here it's interesting because it's slightly bluer and it works. Same thing here for our seating. I can just decrease the intensity. So if you want to make it less bright, you can use the exposure here and just decrease like that. You can see it's going to work. It's almost like magic. And again, you can tint it if you want. So here, maybe let's use a warmer color like that. And now what I could do is the night fill, which is a bit too strong. I could just turn it off or make it less strong by using exposure again. Or maybe I could work on the contrast. So we have something more subtle here. Also here on the bed lamp, it's very easy to decrease the intensity. I think it was too much like that. Yeah, that's better. And now if I want to add my volume lighting, it's very easy. I'm just going to add it like that. Okay, I need of course to make it in add mode. And voila, that's that easy. And where it gets crazy is I can now just add my sunset to everything. So if I add my sunset, I'm going to add it. Okay. Please note that it's in normal. So to make it work, you just need to change to add. And here we are. We have our sunset lighting on top of everything. So now it's very easy to change the lighting. So a good idea would be, instead of doing that, would be to take the whole thing, which is here our assemble, this one. So those I'm going to put them inside temporary folder. Let's call it pre-comps. Okay, so this is my bedroom at night. Now I can duplicate it and make it bedroom sunset. Sunset, not sonnet. Okay, bedroom sunset. And this one, so this copy, I can now just add the sunset here and maybe decrease a lot of the light. The night fill, I think, is useless now. I can just decrease the light of everything. So instead, if you want to decrease the light, instead of using the exposure, you could also very well just lower the opacity. It works the same. Okay, so here on the bed lamp, I'm going to decrease a bit like that. And the light on the ceiling, let's make it less strong. On the standing light, we can just do that. And here for our sunset, maybe we could just use the exposure, work on the gamma, so to make it a bit stronger like that. So you have infinity of mood you can explore this way. It's really, really powerful. Something I didn't show you very quickly, which is pretty nice, is the ability to change our background. So if we go back to our bedroom at night, we can see we can have here a background. So just to show you before this is the whole composition. So our only EXR, because we have only created this one. We do have some opacity, as you can see here. We can't see it very well because everything is blown out and so on. But this opacity can be used to add more to add different backgrounds. So here, for this one, for the night one, I'm going to import just one file. Let's go back to my file in After Effects. I have used here this, which is just JPEG. Let's import it. Yeah, so you put it inside the composition. I don't want that. Okay, so on the bedroom night, I'm going to import this one. I'm going to put it on the back, and you can see it here. And again, what's crazy with OCIO and so on is you can just increase the exposure. And by increasing the exposure of our light, of our simple JPEG here, it's going to be much brighter. It's going to show through our glass. So let's go. You can see it's going to pop out. So now let's just make it a lot smaller. And maybe this way, I'm going to use a corner pin. So let's use the power pin actually from, it's a C-core effect. And maybe change the perspective like that. So I'm going to match the perspective. As you can see here, I'm looking here at the perspective, which is this one. So I make it very quick, very rough. So now it's following the perspective of our picture, as you can see. And if I want to change it to, let's use the transform. So transform I'm going to use before our power pin. So I can slide it this way. Yeah, looks nicer like that. And maybe I overdid the power pin. I guess it's more like that. Yeah, I need to keep this straight. So yeah, it looks better. So here it is. This is our night with our city town, and I would do the same thing here with our bedroom. So let's just import here another one, which will be maybe the sky is on fire. This is the HDR I have used before. So again, it created composition. Let's see it. So this is the HDR I used to create the lighting of the sunset. So to use it inside here, I'm just going to put it there. Then, because it's an HDR, I'm going to use Horizon from Trapcode. So it's one of the plugin with rejoined you have with Maxon one. So let's use Horizon. And Horizon is going to map your image. So this one, like this. And now I'm just going to use the orientation. And I think it's the Y orientation, yes, to have something maybe more like that. And thanks to the OCIO, you can see it works inside After Effects. We have a much better lighting, much more realistic this way. So when we're going to have that on top of everything, so here, yes, if you have this problem here, that's because I just messed up. So yeah, of course, yeah. The setting here is at 59% of opacity. It must be at 100%, of course. Otherwise, it won't work. Makes sense. I did that just to decrease the opacity. Okay, so let's use our horizon, and because we have everything, it's on top of the window, let's use the exposure to bring back more light. Something like that, and then I'm going to change. Yeah, maybe it's nicer like that. So here we are, we have our bedroom at night, our bedroom at sunset. And of course, I could just use the plain daylight like that. So if I wanted to use the daylight as it is, I would just put the daylight inside a new composition. Let's put it back here. And here I would just copy paste our OCIO layer doing all the color transform. So let's go back here, and here it is. And here for this one, I could just turn on the light by using my AOV, like I showed you. I could change the background like that, do whatever I want. And of course, I can do some just color correction. So here, maybe I would just use the exposure again. Let's change the gamma like that. Try something nice and bright. And because we're using OCIO, it's not going to be overblown. I mean, I can go crazy. Well, at some point, it's going to be overblown. But as you can see, it takes pretty well the input I'm going to add. So this is one solution, another one, and all the variation you can just dream of by mixing all together. So the setup is a bit complicated. The rendering time is long, but you have all this creative freedom that you can use, which is just huge. And again, in After Effects, you can do a lot of stuff. For example, let's just finish with this. My stunning light here, let's use a glow. Or maybe we could use optical glow. It'll be a bit more interesting. So optical glow, I'm going to use the highlight only to 100%. So that it's going to work only on that. And by default here, let's go back to linear because we're working in linear space. And let's decrease the amount to something very tiny, like 1. And we have this nice glow. We could use the radiate, so many stuff you can use with the optical glow plugin. It's so interesting. You can colorize it, make it bigger, even bigger like that. You see, it just works. It just works. It's nice. And of course, we could use it here on the. And don't forget that for this render, I didn't use any texture, so it doesn't look very nice. But I did it to show you all the lighting. With the blank wall, you can really see what's going on with the light and so on. So if you use real texture, of course, it's going to be much nicer to see. Well, and that's cool. We have just a tiny bit overflowed, and we have time for question if you want, because I went a bit faster. Maybe you have some question.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, this was so great to see. It's so nice to see, especially that that kind of like sunset one. I think looks amazing. Looks really great. So yeah, let me have a quick look for some of these questions. So Brian was wondering, could you just render an animated sunset with the sun angle changing, then composite it with the rest?
Well, yes, it would work. If you have an animated light, it's going to work. But of course, the problem is you are going to render many files. You're going to render a sequence. And because the render time is pretty bad with this technique, that's not something I would recommend. But it will work. It would work, definitely. No problem with that. It's going to work the same with static light or animated light.
Cool, yeah. So this is a very it depends question. On average, how long is a typical render time for an architectural rendering?
Oh, on architectural rendering can be crazy. I remember back in the 2000s, it was 2006 or 2007. I was working on architectural rendering in 3ds Max with V-Ray, and to have like 1 day of rendering for an image like that was very, very common. So now now it could take 1 day if you're going to do a 4K image. That's the problem.
Wow.
And that's the biggest drawback with this technique. It's really useful if you're going to make a lot of variation. If you really know how to use After Effects and so on, I think it can be great because it's going to be very long, but then you can create 10 variation of the same picture. So that's cool. But if you're only going to do one or two, I think the usual workflow would be better. And yes, architectural rendering is still pretty long, but I must say Redshift is amazing with that. When you use here the reaudience cache, the trick here is not to use brute force, but to use at least brute force and reaudience point cloud. This is much faster, or even reaudience cache and reaudience point cloud. And this is going to drop your render by tenfold sometimes. But it doesn't work with light groups, so it's brute force.
Cool. Yeah, it's good to know about it. Only works like if you're using light groups to use brute force and brute force. I didn't know that. Good to know. Yes. Sorry, you go.
I hope it's going to be fixed at some points. I don't know if that's already a feature to ask. I guess I will do it. I think it's been done already, but it's not been implemented.
Yeah, if everyone here does a feature request, they'll be inundated.
Yeah.
Also, Richard was wondering, so I know we like to share project files. Are you willing to share this project file for this?
Yes, of course. That was the idea. That's why there is not many texture and so on. This is a scene from the asset browser anyway, so it's free to use. And
amazing.
So you'll be able to use it with the After Effects project, and then you can add some more texture so it looks better.
No, I think it looks great anyway. I think it looks really good. Oh, that's perfect. Well, yeah, so that's good to know that we'll get those on the Dropbox link for everyone. Cool. Right, shall we cameras back on and sort of wrap up?
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm back.
Yeah, once again, Lionel, such an amazing session from Anders. Very good seminar and some beautiful work. And absolutely, I couldn't agree more.
Thank you.
It's amazing. I think, like, to me, like the combination of the flexibility with the lighting combined with the OCIO, like the range that you have to relight and how subtle those highlights look, like that's incredible. That's incredible. It's gorgeous. All the stuff you were doing, I feel like I could just like sit there and just like play for days. And like
OCIO, it's a game changer. The problem is it's a bit complicated to set up. Not really. When you know how to do it now, I don't even think about it. But I remember when I was exploring that, learning that, it was just like hell. I mean, it's getting easier and easier. It's really great. Now I only work in ACCG all the time.
That's gorgeous what you're doing. I mean, like as a compositor person, like I've just seen all this like flexibility. You were apologizing for render times, but the whole time I was like, oh man, but just like to have all this flexibility in post and not have to go back and render it again. I mean,
it must save the time, even though the initial render takes so long. If you think the amount of time you then have to re-render for every single shot that would look like this, it would be longer in the long run.
Yeah, and like the masking and like hacks you'd have to do to kind of like fake relighting and adding light here to this part and that part, but just like to actually organically have the light to enhance, to glow, to change the color of all that stuff. Wow, it's just like incredibly flexible, just amazing.
That's what I like. Actually, I come from After Effects. I learned 2D after, so I love to do stuff on After Effects and to cheat my way.
Spectacular. Man.
Yeah, that was great. And thanks again for everyone's lovely questions throughout this whole thing. It's really nice to be able to, you know, ask and answer those live because I'm sure they benefit everyone here and me as well. Like I didn't know about the brute force at all, so I'm learning along with you.
Brute force.
Oh yeah, so what we'll do, we'll get these project files uploaded onto the Dropbox later on today or tomorrow morning, and we'll get this session on the Maxon Train Team YouTube channel as soon as we possibly can. So yeah, and then don't forget, next Wednesday, save the date, spring launch, April 20th at 8 AM PDT. So once again, guys, it's been a pleasure. It's been really great to be here and see you on a lovely Monday.
You as well. Oh, hey, should we talk about next week's session?
Oh yeah, voyage? Go on, teaser.
Yeah, teaser. So next week we're going to be doing something a little unconventional. We're going to be going from Cinema 4D to the world of Unreal. So if you've been hearing about like game engine rendering and all that kind of stuff, we're going to just do like a real basic workflow from Cinema to Unreal. And I'm not an Unreal Pro, but we're just going to be just doing some very basic intro to how to take stuff that you make in Cinema and put a character in it and walk through it, and that's kind of a fun thing to do. So come check it out.
Cool, that sounds great. I'm excited.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Cool. Well, I hope everyone has a lovely rest of their day and a lovely rest of their week, and we will catch you on another session soon or next Monday on part 3 of this Demystifying series.
Woo.
Bye everyone.
Thanks everybody. Take care.